Have you ever been in class and for some reason nothing is making sense? It's almost like the professor speaking a language you've never heard before. But as you look around the room, the other students seem to be keeping up just fine. This feeling is really frustrating and usually results in us just checking out completely. So today, let's learn a simple strategy to ensure that this feeling never happens to you again. So here we have Alma Mater's Learn Anything cycle, which is a three-part model for what we can do before, during, and after class to ensure maximum learning success. But this strategy falls into the first section of our model, which is all about priming your brain. Now, priming your brain refers to what are the things we can do before we get to class to ensure our brains are ready to handle anything that's thrown at them. And you see, that's actually why this is indicated by a map icon for this section of the cycle. It helps us orient ourselves to ensure that we're not feeling completely lost in lecture and our brains are prepared. Now, there is no better way to do this than something called previewing. Now, I would like to make a note that this strategy has been borrowed from the amazing Dr. Sandra McGuire, who wrote the book Teach Yourself How to Learn, which is full of actionable strategies that all students can use to just do better in school. I promise it will help you reach all of your goals. Highly recommend you give that a read. But let's recap the strategy here. So previewing is sort of like a movie trailer of the class that's to come, of the lecture. Now, like a movie trailer, previewing is not going to give you a comprehensive overview of a concept, but instead it's going to give you a general working understanding of what to expect in lecture. You'll have some of the big ideas, some of the main points, maybe some people, a new vocabulary word or two, so that way as the professor is teaching, you're not completely lost. And that's because learning science shows that this is the most effective way to learn during lecture. We need a skeleton. We need a foundation, a framework, so that when the professor shares, we're just sort of bulking up our understanding rather than starting completely from scratch. Now, you see, your professors also know that this is valuable, and that's why they give us the assigned readings. It's not because they hate us. It's not because they don't think we have a life, but it's because they want to ensure that when we get to class, we're ready to hit the ground running and to start learning. So I recognize, though, that the problem with assigned readings is that they're assigned readings, and you may have dozens of pages, even hundreds of pages or dozens of articles that you have to get through. And sometimes there just isn't time. And this is where previewing comes in really handy. So with previewing, instead of reading it word for word in our textbook or our articles, we're going to point out sort of the key things to build this baseline. There are 5 key areas we need to focus on to ensure that we get enough information to prepare our brains for class. The first thing we need to do is focus on all of the headings. What are the headings and the subheadings in the text? And this is basically sort of an outline of the things that we can expect our professor to cover. The next thing I encourage you to look at are words that might be bolded or italicized. And these are likely new vocabulary words. You're going to hear them in lecture. And if you don't know what they mean, that may be one of the things that trips you up and confuses you. So let's make sure we know what all of this stuff is. And then we want to take a look at all of the visuals. So often students tell me, but I'm a visual learner. That's a whole nother topic for another video. But for now, if you'd like to have sort of a visual understanding, taking a look at the visuals, the charts, the graphs, the pictures, and reading their captions can help you start to picture some of the stuff in your brain as your professor is speaking. The next thing we want to do is focus on any type of like chapter questions. These could be review questions at the end. And this is an idea of what you should be able to answer had you read the text word for word. So at least know what those questions are. Those are great questions that you should be able to answer after lecture. Or if you can answer some of them after previewing, great. That's going to give you a really nice solid foundation. And the final thing is actually my favorite area to focus on, which is the chapter summary, or sometimes it's an abstract if you're reading an article. And basically, this is a nutshell version of the entire text. So I promise, if you go ahead and set aside just 15 minutes to do these things before class, it is going to set your brain up to learn, to succeed, and to not feel completely lost in your next lecture.